Say it with me, people don't just vanish into thin air, especially not inside of an apartment building before even getting to the lobby. Except in this case, she did. This little girl left her apartment to go and swim with one of her friends in the apartment complex's pool. Yet she disappeared before ever getting to the lobby. One second she was here, the next she was gone. And despite this being the largest search in Toronto's history, she has never been found. All it took was mere minutes. A lot of things in this case just don't add up. Like how a neighbor saw a blonde woman wearing a trench coat writing in a notebook on this little girl's floor less than an hour before she disappeared. This woman seemed to be taking notes, and before this day, she had never been seen in the complex before. Could she have been involved? We don't know, because this woman has never been identified. This is the mysterious disappearance of Nicole Morin, and nothing scares me more than when someone vanishes into thin air, leaving behind no clues. So, let's talk about it. This is Nicole Morin. She was only 8 years old when she suddenly and very mysteriously disappeared in July of 1985. Nicole was a really bright and bubbly little girl who loved to swim. Her mom and dad, Arthur and Jeanette, had separated, and at the time of her disappearance, Nicole lived with her mom in a 20th floor penthouse apartment in the Etobicoke borough of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Although they were separated, they both loved Nicole so much as she was their only child, so she always got a lot of attention. In July of 1985, Nicole was in 3rd grade and had recently started her summer vacation, which she was so excited about. They spent lots of swimming, playing with her friends, and just being a kid. But sadly, this would all be ripped away from her on July 30th, 1985. That morning started out just like any other. At around 10:30 a.m., Nicole went down to the lobby to get the mail for her mom, and then she went back up to her apartment on the 20th floor to get ready for a planned swim date with one of her friends. This was something that she did a lot. She and her friends would all go and swim in the apartment's pool, which was located in the back of the building complex. Shortly after this, her friend buzzed her apartment via the lobby's intercom, and Nicole told her that she would be down in just a second. At around 11 a.m., Nicole left her apartment wearing her favorite peach-colored one-piece bathing suit, a green hairband, and some bright red shoes. She was carrying a plastic bag full of all the essentials, an extra white t-shirt, and some green and white shorts for when she needed some dry clothes to change into, some sunscreen, a hairbrush, a peach-colored blanket, and a purple beach towel. By all accounts, if she took the elevator, she should have been down to the lobby within a minute or so, but 15 minutes came and went, and she never showed up to the lobby. Her friend started to get a little impatient, so she buzzed up to her apartment once again. This time, Nicole's mom, Jeanette, answered, and at first, Jeanette kind of brushed this off, thinking that maybe Nicole was already at the pool by herself, or maybe she was playing with some different kids or something. At the time, Jeanette ran an in-home daycare in her apartment for young kids, so she was extremely busy and didn't think much of this. But by 3 p.m., so 4 hours after Nicole was supposed to be at the pool, still no one had heard from her or seen her. This is when her mom reported her missing to the Toronto police. This kickstarted a massive search, and when I say massive, I mean it. The Toronto Police Service formed a 20-member task force and quickly began searching every single apartment unit in the complex. Investigators knocked on every single door in the building, which was 429 units, and even if no one answered, they entered their apartments and began searching. The first day that Nicole was reported missing, they immediately put up roadblocks surrounding the apartment complex, and authorities began sending out cars with loudspeakers and microphones blaring information about Nicole's disappearance and her description. This search expanded to Highway 27, which was near the apartment building, and investigators searched on foot, by horse, by water, and by air. And they even brought in tracking dogs, but it was like Nicole simply just vanished into thin air. Like absolutely no trace of her or any clue as to what happened to her was found. This search would go on to be the biggest search and missing person investigation in Toronto police's history, so the fact that they found not a single clue was eerie. It was such an extensive search, and this included the apartment building's underground garages, utility and storage units, and even pump rooms. More than 900 residents in the building joined the search for her as well, so no stone was left unturned. But again, nothing was ever found. Police were able to sort of piece together Nicole's last movements based on a resident of the apartment/witness. This woman who lived in the building claimed to see Nicole go down the elevator and enter the lobby, but after this, she just disappeared, and no one could figure out where she went. And then seemingly out of the blue, another neighbor came forward and said something that honestly turned this investigation into a whole new direction. So about 45 minutes before before Nicole disappeared, one of her male neighbors claimed to have seen an unidentified blonde woman wearing a trench coat and holding a notebook on Nicole's floor. The woman appeared to have been taking notes, and this stood out to the neighbor because he had never seen her in the apartment building before that day. So police thought this was a fantastic place to start, so they tried locating this woman, not even as a suspect, but as a possible witness to what happened to Nicole. But they weren't able to ever find her, and to this day, the identity of this woman remains a mystery. No one ever came forward claiming to be her, so this led police pretty much back to square one. Within 4 months of Nicole's disappearance, police interviewed over 6,000 people, including hundreds of sex offenders. At the time, Toronto Crime Stoppers was a brand new thing, and they took on Nicole's disappearance as their first significant case. The investigation into Nicole's vanishing remained active for 9 months, but sadly, her case would fall cold. With no leads to go off of, what happened to Nicole soon became a very cold mystery. With that being said though, Toronto police and other missing child organizations have tried to keep her story out there. Every so often, they'll release age-enhanced photos of what Nicole would look like, and today she would be 48 years old. Crime Stoppers has also released several different video reenactments showing Nicole's last movements in hopes that it will spark someone's memory and get them to come forward. Authorities made it very clear that her parents were not involved. Her mom and dad were cleared, but one thing that is super odd is a note that police found in Nicole's apartment after she disappeared. The note was written by Nicole months before she disappeared, and it read, quote, "I'm going to disappear." End quote. Nobody could figure out why she would have written that, and while some think that it could just be a red herring, others think it's directly connected to what eventually happened to her. After her disappearance, Nicole's dad Arthur quit his job and hired a PI, despite police advising against it. He moved back in with Nicole's mom and even began investigating her disappearance for clues himself. He just couldn't bear not knowing what happened to his only daughter. His investigation expanded all throughout Canada and even into the United States, so he covered a lot of ground. But sadly, he too found nothing. Then in 2004, a potential break in the case came, but it's a deeply disturbing possible reality. So in 2004, researchers for a Belgian organization announced that they believed they had matched photos of Nicole, which were taken directly from the police website, with pictures on a Dutch website that advocates for sexually abused children. In other words, they used biometrical analysis to compare each photo. And from that, they believe there is a strong resemblance between Nicole and a child in a pedophile network in the Netherlands. Authorities spent years investigating this lead, but no physical evidence was ever found connecting back to Nicole, and as of today, this case remains unsolved. And although we don't know what exactly happened to her, there are a few theories. One theory is that Nicole was abducted by someone who lived in the apartment complex, or at the very least was abducted by someone who visited the complex a lot. I mean, she was taken within a matter of minutes, so whoever did this had to know the layout of the building pretty well to pull off such a risky kidnapping. This leads me to my next point. Some think that Nicole knew whoever kidnapped her because no one heard any screaming, and there was no sign of a struggle at all. None of her belongings were ever found either, so some think that she went with someone that she thought she could trust, and was then killed. There was no security cameras in the building or any CCTV, but what's devastating to know was that the building was actually going to be having security cameras installed within the same week that Nicole was kidnapped. It's just tragic that this happened before that could take place. The last theory is that the unknown blonde woman was involved. What gets me is that Nicole's disappearance was huge, so this woman definitely knew that a child was missing. So why hasn't she ever come forward? If she wasn't involved, do you think that she would come forward and contact police to clear her name, and possibly be a witness to whoever actually took Nicole? It's weird that she was never seen in the complex before that day. So personally, I feel like she was involved somehow. And lastly, some think that Nicole was buried somewhere on the apartment's grounds, or somewhere inside the building, and she has just never been found. I don't think this is super likely because the complex was literally torn upside down looking for her. So I feel like if she was still there, she, or at least some of her belongings, would have been found by now. Sadly, Nicole's mom died in 2007 without ever knowing what really happened to her only child. Her dad still lives in the Etobicoke neighborhood, still searching for his little girl. I feel horrible for Nicole, obviously, but also for her friend that she was supposed to meet up with that day. It must feel really heavy and traumatizing knowing that your friend disappeared on the way to hang out out with you, never to be seen again. I hope she's found peace and healing. It's crazy to me that it only took a matter of minutes for Nicole to completely vanish off the face of the earth. And I just cannot imagine one of my kids going missing and then being forced to live the rest of my life never knowing what really happened to them. That's a different type of hell that no one should ever have to experience. But it's now been 40 years, and whatever really happened to Nicole that day in that building remains a mystery.